So in a previous video I showed you how I wired up these outlets, making 4 outlets actually turn into 8 separate outlets. In this video I'm going to show you how to take the outlets and the relay board and mount them all into the box. Now, one thing that I like to do is I number my boxes. It tells me which box is what and which outlet is what. I have 7 boxes. I need to keep track of each one, especially when I'm going to wire the relays up to the Arduino. As you can tell, this is box 3 top. Okay, looking at it this way, this is the top left. So it goes 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Just like that. Now, my ground wire, my white wire is going to come out on this end because my other boxes are over here. I'm going to connect them all in the middle. So what I like to do is mark a little mark here just to keep me squared up of where these wires are going to come out of. Alright. So what you want to do on the top, on this side, this is the top, is go ahead and pop each one of these little pieces in. That's where my ground wire and my white wire is going to come out at, right there. So what I do is I take my pair of needle nose pliers. Be careful, you don't want to stab yourself. Okay, put them in there. Take a little bit of wiggling. Pop them in there. You just want to bend them teeth out, like so. And continue to do this all the way across, just for the top and for that one where the ground and white wire is going to come out. So I'm going to get this done and get right back with you. Okay, so now that we have all the tabs popped out of here on the top and the bottom, you would think, hey, let's throw the outlets in there, wire it up. No, don't do that. I made a mistake one time, and that was one time too many. It's a headache to get everything backed out. So what we're going to do is take these outlets and set them to the side. We don't need them right now. Now what we're going to do is take the relay board, and we're going to mount it to the back of the box. Now, if you look on your relay board, you have one side that has a row of 10 outlets or 10 receptacles, spots, whatever you want to call it, and you have one that has 16. You want the side that has 16 on the top side of the box. Top, top. And what that's going to do is when your wires come out of your box, out of your receptacles, out of the box, they're going to connect to these terminals. So you don't want it like this, you want it like this. Okay? Now what I try to do is I try to center it up on the board, on the back of the box as best I can. You don't want to get too close to the top because when you drill this out, there's a wall right here and you got to put a nut in there and it gets tight. So you want to bring it just a little bit lower than it is tall and then center it up side to side. Okay. Now I've done this a couple of different ways. I haven't found a really easy way to do it, but we're going to go from here. First thing I do is get my drill and I'm going to drill out. Hold on to it good and tight. And drill out each one of these holes. Okay. We're going to do that now. Okay, now we got all the holes drilled out. There's different ways you can do this. You can drill them out the smaller bit and go up to a larger bit like I did. Sometimes you can get a pencil down in there, inside there, mark it out. However you want to do it, just take your time with it. You know, there's a little bit of room for error, but we'll get there. Okay, so what I'm using is some number 4x40 machine screws, and they come with the little nuts. These are 1 inch. You can get inch, inch and a quarter, inch and an eighth. That's all about the same. The little bit longer ones give you a little bit more room to fool with inside the box, but also you lose a little bit of space inside the box. Anyways, now you can get a Lowe's, Walmart, places like that, and you can get these spacers. Now I have a 3D printer, and my 3D printer has not shut off in the last couple of days. Printing out parts and so on. And actually printing out these spacers here. Cost me pennies. A bag of 4 spacers will cost you a couple of bucks. These spacers like this literally cost me probably less than a penny each, maybe maybe a penny. Anyways, take your screw, put it through the board like so. Put your thumb on it, your finger on it, put your spacer on it, just like that. Now if you can get to one side going and hold on to them, it works even better. And one thing about these spacers, they're not exactly perfect, but they're going to do what they need to do. Okay, let's get them out of the way. Line your screws up with your screw holes. Now this is where if your holes are off a little bit, that's why the little bit longer screws, you can kind of finagle it a little bit with it to get it to go right. This is just right in there. We're going to do the same thing with the other side here. This is a little bit trickier part. Some of these little parts, you got to clean them out with the screwdriver. Make sure they're cleaned out. Anyways, put your screw in there through there and pick it up a little bit, set your spacer in and push it through. Now I wouldn't go into the hole all the way because then it's going to set down. Don't do that. Come over here, get this side, finish it up first. Clean that hole up a little bit. Same thing, put the screw for the hole and the screw for the spacer. Line them both up, push them into the box like so. Okay, now this one's a little bit tight, no big deal. I can just finish it up with this little screwdriver here. Okay, now what this spacer does, it keeps all the electronics off the box, gives it a little bit of airflow, makes it look a little bit neater. Also, whenever your wires are coming out of your box, it gives you a little more room to bend your wires. Now, we're going to go on the inside of the box. Flip it over. You want to hold on to your board, make sure it doesn't fall off. If you look inside, you can see where the screws come out at. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. A little patience helps out a lot. Don't get aggravated, just take your time. Sometimes you can start these with your fingers, sometimes you have to use a pair of channel locks, pair of pliers here. Yeah, I've had to do it both ways sometimes. See, it's a little frustrating. But like I said, just take your time with it. Sometimes you get smaller hands, you can just get them like that, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and tighten all these down, and I'll get right back with you. Okay, as you can tell, I got everything tightened down. Now the bottom of the box is usually going to be the hardest part because that's where we lowered the relay board just a little bit off the top of the box. So it's a little bit closer to the lower, and that's where you got to get a little bit interesting with your pliers and your fingers and everything. Once I get everything down, tightened down, works out just fine. Spacers aren't the prettiest, but we're not trying to go for Better Homes and Gardens magazine. We're just trying to make it functional, not pretty. Now, we're going to take the box. Now we're going to look at the front of it. This is where it gets interesting. This is where it can be very frustrating, but just take your time. You're going to take your outlets that you set off to the side. And I'm probably going to do this off screen so a little bit more room. Going to take, and right now I have the bottom of the box facing up because I'm going to put this big long white wire through the bottom hole by itself, and then here on this other side where all these other ones are opened up at, I'm going to put these wires, that pair, that pair, that pair, and that pair for each one of those holes. Now whenever I pull them out and they're sticking out here, I will know which outlet is top because each one of the top ones is the one that we stripped off the wire. The one that isn't stripped is going to be the bottom. So let me get that in there and I'll get right back with you. Alright, that took about a minute or so to try to get all these wires through the box here. Like I said, just take your time with it. Another thing, while we made the outside, if you remember, the outside wires are the longer of the wires. I think these are the 6 or 7 inch, whatever they were. They're about an inch or so longer than these. That also helps when you're putting them through, because if you put these first two in, they'll come out of the hole here about an inch or so. And then once they're sticking out, then you can work on the middle here. They won't worry about falling out. Another little tip. Now once we got those in there, I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to tighten down all the outlets. That's where my drill comes in handy. Put a number 2 bit in there, and we're good to town. Now when we tighten these down, we don't want to tighten them down a lot. We just want to get them snug. If you look on the box, it has the holes that these go into. Don't get them tight, just get them snug. Okay, let me get these started and I'll get right back with you. Okay, so now I got all the receptacles in the box and they're somewhat tightened down. They're not tight, they're just snug. Now we're going to connect the wires to the relays. These are the wires coming out of the box. We're going to do this in order, just coming across the board. Now, this is the top left outlet, if you remember. Remember, the top one has the wire stripped off of it. Now, I have a little sheet I made where I'm working in box 3. So, relay 17 in my show, I'll get on it a little bit later on, is going to be wired up to relay 8 of this board. Okay. There's outlet 17. It's on the top. It's the one that has the wire stripped off of it. So what I'm going to do is take it and bend it over, line it up with the hole. Got to open them up a little bit. Actually got to open them up all the way. Don't go too far with it because those screws can be a pain to get back in sometimes. And if you want to do a clean look, that's why these wires are a little bit shorter. If you add more length to these wires when we cut them, you can just loop them in there and get it done. I'm trying to make it look a little bit organized, like that. I try to put all these wires in the left side of the terminals. Really doesn't matter, but you'll see. Now, it fits snugly in there, okay, like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down. Now don't get gorilla tight with these because these are plastic and this is soldered in there. That's the only thing really holding these connectors in there, these terminals into that board. You gotta remember, these are Chinese made parts. This isn't, you know, American made, quality, blah blah blah. Now, before we go on to the next outlet, we're going to take the long L that we had before that's stripped out. Okay. Take the short end, of the L. Let me get it straightened out here. And it's going to go into the next side of this relay. Each relay has 2 connectors. So I'm going to put it in there. Like so. That's going to go straight up at you. So make sure you don't get it confused with these coming out of the box and the ones coming out of the relay. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down. I'm not going to get real tight with it, just enough so it doesn't fall out. Now on the next one, this bottom one, here's the bottom of the box, is going to be number 21. So I'm going to look at my sheet, make sure there's relay 20, receptacle 21, it goes on relay 7. So here's relay 7, it tells you right there the number. I'm going to fold it over and go ahead and twist off, or excuse me, can't find my wire cutter. So I'm going to go ahead and strip off the wire, bend it in like we did this one here before. There's my wire cutters. You don't need much, about 1/4 inch or so. Strip it off like so. Now you see why we left these top one stripped off and the bottom was not. It just makes it easier in the long run. Okay, so once I get close to where I need to go, I'm gonna go ahead and make a little L in the wire, make it look a little neater. And this is where sometimes I don't cut enough wire, sometimes it is too much wire. It is what it is once you figure it out. If this is your first time, I would add a little bit more wire than what we cut in the first place, just for things like this. This is a little bit tight, but it's going to work. It's going to look a little bit cleaner, but it's a little bit aggravating to get all lined up. Sometimes you got to use your channel locks, your pliers here, needle nose pliers, to give a little bit of encouragement to go into your terminal. But like I said, be careful. These terminals are just soldered in there, and you don't want to ruin this outlet, the coating on your wire. See, it goes in there. All right, go ahead and tighten this one down. All the ones that are coming out of the box, you definitely want to tighten them down. You don't want them working way back out. Now we're going to get one of the shorter L's that we had before. Same thing with the L, goes in the box. Goes into the terminal here. Pushes in, comes out a little bit. You don't have to have it tight, just have it snug so it doesn't fall out. Now I'm going to continue my way all the way down here, all the way down the box. All my top outlets, 17, 18, 19, and 20, are going to get even numbered relays. All the bottom ones, number 20 through, or 21 through 24, are going to get the odd numbers, 7, 5, 3, and 1. So on and so forth. I'll get right back with you as soon as I get done wiring these up. So we got everything wired up. Spin this around. This is the top of the box. Here's the front. Wires in, out of the receptacles, go in through the terminal to the relay, and then you have your inputs here. These are actually your input wires. All these wires are going to get tied together into the main power that comes out of your house, and distribute through these relays. And when the relays turn on and off, it turns the outlets on and off. That's the basic principle of it. Now what I'm going to do is get one of these Wagyu or Wagyu, called walnuts or whatever. They hold 6 wires. We're not going to put all 6 in there. We're going to put 4. And then a connector to connect them all together. So I'm going to probably have to strip and cut some of these wires down, because they're probably a little bit too long. I'm going to start with the smallest one. I'm trying to get 4 into one and 4 in another, and then I'm going to make another piece of wire that's going to connect the 2 together. So it's going to end up something like this. So let me get this cut up and figured up, and I'll show you what I got in just a second. Okay, so I got all these wires connected using the Wagyu connectors. 4 on this one and 4 on this one, with a small, about 3-inch piece connecting the 2 together. Now once I put these all in the boxes, I will have a main hot line, a black line, coming out of my house, and it's going to separate using another one of these. And it's going to go one to here, one to another box, one to another box, so on and so forth. So this is like the first distribution block, and this is either the second and third distribution block. When the power comes into here, when I trigger the relay, it's going to complete the circuit and send power to the outlets, thus turning on the Christmas lights. Now, in another video, I'm going to show you a little bit how I program the box, or program the Arduino. I kind of do it the old-fashioned way, it's the pain in the butt way. I don't suggest doing it. We'll get into that later on. Now once you got everything lined up and secure here, make sure there's no exposed wire. If you see copper wire, except for this bare copper line, if you see any bare wire, you might want to address it somehow. Shorten your wire up, put some electrical tape on it, or they got liquid electrical tape. Do something with it, because these lines right here are going to have 120 volts on them, and the possibility, depending upon how your house is wired up, you're going to have the possibility of 30 amps running for these wires. You do not want something to go wrong with these wires. You do not want them touching each other. It could be a mess. Now, I'm not a licensed electrician. I'm not a professional. I'm just showing you how I do it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you how I do it. So if anything goes wrong, it's not on me. I'm sorry for you. But this is how I do it. This is exactly how I did my leafing arch last year with the box, exactly like this. Now this year I'm building 7 of these more, so it worked out fine the first time. It's going to work out fine many, many times. I'm just being very careful with what I do and going very slowly what I do. That's why I'm not in a rush. That's why I'm skipping, the parts of me doing the tedious work, back-to-back work, the repetitious work. I'm just going to skip over that part. So, I'll show you the first time, and then the second, third, fourth time, blah, blah, blah. I'm skipping over that because I'm taking my time. I'm doing it right the first time. Don't get in a hurry. Don't get in a rush. Mark things out, as you can see here how I have the outlets made. You know, be very careful with these terminals. They're plastic, a little metal in there. If you can see down in there, there's not a whole lot holding these in there, so be careful with them. Don't force the screws on them. I have two sets of I guess these are #1 screwdrivers. Each one has a different little grip on it. My fingers start slipping on one, I'll set it down, I'll get the other one. Take your time with it. Do not use a drill on these outlets, on the parts of the relay board. A drill will strip out those screws. Those are cheap screws. Use a screwdriver. I can't stress that enough. I did it one time and I wasted the board. Those screws I can't find anywhere. That's why I bought an extra one. This is my donor part, so if I strip something out, I will have something to possibly desolder and fix a board that I messed up, or something that comes in messed up. But anyways, this is just a brief overview of how I get the box wired up, and the next video I'm going to show you how I have the box that all these boxes go into, and I'll show you how that's set up.